So, welcome to our webinar, GMG ColorProof Tips and Tricks for a Successful Calibration. Few words about me, who's speaking to you today. My name is Jessica Landherr. I am responsible for the Academy here at GMG, and I am with GMG since 2008, and I'm in the printing industry since 2003, starting as a media designer in a pre-press department. Okay, then let's have a look at today's agenda. So we will talk about environmental recommendations. So how does your environment have to look or have to be set up to get a correct calibration? Then we will talk about, the most important question most of the time: how often should I calibrate? A lot of people ask us this. We will have a closer look on this question. We will talk about green buildings, so saving the environment and what this has to do with our calibration. Head alignments, paper feed adjustment, very, very important step. Connectivity, and in the end, we have the possibility to answer open questions. Like I already said, please feel free to just type your questions into the chat window. Okay, then let's start with the environmental recommendations. In general, it's pretty easy. Printers are happiest when humans are happiest. So if you feel good, the printer feels good, especially when we're talking about temperature and humidity. So between 18 and 24 degrees Celsius and 40 to 60% humidity, the printer and the humans feel good. So this should be, in an ideal world, your printers are in a climatic environment. So you have a decent room keeping this temperature and this humidity for your printer. Especially the humidity is a big point, since it has a huge impact on the viscosity of the inks and on the absorbency of the ink acceptance layer in the paper. So in the worst case, if you have a low humidity, especially in winter, this can shrink actually your color gamut on your printer, since the absorbency of the paper changed. We see that especially in wintertime, we get more support calls for problems with calibrations due to the low humidity you have in wintertime. Another point is that the backing of the paper can be static because of the low humidity, and this might lead to curling, which then leads to head crashes inside the printer. So you may have massive problems printing on your paper or handling your paper in the printer. Besides your printer, your proofing paper should be stored in climatic conditions as well. But not even having the correct temperature and humidity is important. It is also important to keep the paper away from direct light, direct sunlight, and from every heating or cooling vents. And this also applies to the printers. Please make sure that they are located away from air condition, for heating vents, from windows, and things like this. Long story short, a stable environment is a happy environment. So when you see you have calibration issues, just check if your printer is directly between the air condition, or if the air flowing from the air condition or from a heating vent or something touches your printer, then maybe think about moving your printer to another location. This would be the best solution. Okay, so we need climatic conditions. We have to make sure that the air condition around our printer is stable. We have to make sure that our proofing paper is stored in climatic conditions as well. And then we have a very important question, which is, how often should I calibrate? A lot of people ask this question, and there's not the correct answer to it, unfortunately. It totally depends on your environment. It totally depends if you're having climatic conditions. It totally depends on the printer, on the device itself you have. How old is your printer? How critical is the majority of your proofs? This is another point. What's the quality standard you need? We have a test, or I want to introduce a test to you to find out how good you can calibrate. Okay, so what you do first is you run a calibration on your printer with very low delta E tolerances. So for maximum delta E, you could set up like 1.3, and for the average delta E, you could set up 0.4, something like this. So you really stress the printer to get to the best result. It may be that you need like 7 iterations to see what the best result is, but that's only something you have to do once. When doing this test, you will see that, of course, with every calibration iteration, the delta E values decrease, but at some point, you will see that the delta E values increase again. And then they start to switch. So you get high delta E's, lower delta E's, high delta E's, lower delta E's, like a wave. And at this point you see, okay, so at least at this point when the delta E's are going high again, you see, okay, this is the point, the best point possible you can reach. And just take these tolerances you just reached in your test and add round about half a delta E to each. So to the maximum delta E tolerance and to the average delta E tolerance. Just to have tolerances for everyday calibration, since there may be days when your printer is very, very good in shape, and there may be other days when you just don't reach such a very, very good calibration. Yes, and this now, just adding round about half a delta E, these are your new tolerance values. Give it a try. So the next point is you have to find out how stable your environment is. So you have your new tolerances and calibrate once a week with these just estimated tolerances. And then track your calibrations. If you are running 3 to 5 iterations every time you do it, try calibrating twice a week or even more. If you need up to 5 iterations, this is already an indicator that your environment and your printer is less stable. Of course, therefore, you have to calibrate more often. If you hit in 1 to 2, up to 3 iterations each time, once a week, perfect. Your environment is stable, your printer is stable, no problem for you. Another possibility is if you verify your proofs regularly, so if you measure your media wedges regularly, these are as well an indicator for calibration stability. So another recommendation could be that you calibrate just every 2 weeks, but you keep an eye on your proof verifications and you track them over the time, just to see how good your calibration is and how your printouts match. Generally, we would say, okay, calibrate once in a week and think about calibrating directly before printing critical jobs. Or if you can do it like this, plan your critical jobs right after your calibration. So plan to print them right after your calibration. This would be another possibility. What we do here in-house actually, when we do profile creation for the setup, for instance, or when we do color critical jobs, we calibrate every day our printers. But of course, we know that in the daily working environment, it may be not possible to take the effort for calibrating each day. And of course, you're wasting ink, you're wasting paper, and you're wasting money. That's sure. So we say, okay, like once in a week, and if you do this test, you should be on the safe side. Okay, then our next topic, going green. So what I mean with this is a lot of buildings turn off the heating or the air condition over the weekend. And this is a very good idea for our environment, but not for the printer's environment, since the climatic conditions totally change over the weekend then. So on Monday mornings, it's best to let the printer have some time to, warm up, to get back in the normal state before you print your color critical jobs. This is like you on Monday mornings, we all need our coffee to get warm, and this is what your printer needs as well. Another tip, when you cannot wait for so long to get the printer running, think about printing not color critical jobs before the calibration. So if you have form proofs, for instance, no color proofs. Or what else you could do is if you just print some random pictures before the calibration, just to get the printer in temperature and the inks as well. Otherwise, you just need to give your printer some more time. Okay, head alignments. Very, very important point. Assuming general maintenance functions like nozzle check, maybe print head cleaning, shaking the inks, especially if the printer has not been used for a longer time, all these maintenance steps have been done. Afterwards, we talk about the head alignment. When was the last time you ran a head alignment on your printer? Usually experience shows that, not a lot of people do the head alignment actually. The head alignment is functionality which is available for every proofing device in the printer panel. For Epson devices, we recommend to run the unidirectional alignment first and then followed by the bidirectional alignment. If you do it vice versa, this could result in a not so good paper feed head alignment result. If you only print unidirectional anyways, you don't have to do the bidirectional head alignment. A recommendation from our side is that you put a reminder to your calendar for doing the head alignment once a month. After you moved the printer, maybe because it was standing next to a window, after the printer has had any maintenance to the hardware, please do a head alignment as well again. Usually when a technician comes in to repair a printer, they do the head alignment afterwards anyways. Nevertheless, it's no bad idea to do it. After the head alignment, the next very, very important step comes the paper feed adjustment. It really is the most important step of all. We see so many problems in terms of color resulting just because of the wrong paper feed adjustment. So it is worth the effort actually. So an incorrect paper feed setting causes banding underneath everything you print, so underneath all your proofs and test charts. It is actually not visible, but it is measurable. You see a screenshot here. You see this light and dark banding down there. We will see a test chart later on as well. So in a usual proof or even on a test chart, usually this kind of banding is not visible. If it is visible, then your paper feed is way, way wrong. Very, very wrong. Of course, you don't see this, but you may have problems calibrating your printer, iterating your profiles, verifying your profiles, passing the media wedge, for instance. So, okay, what to do? HP and Canon printers have built-in paper advanced calibration. This is the name for it. They have the built-in functionality in their front panel menus. So usually under maintenance, paper feed adjustment, or paper advanced calibration, you find them in ColorProof on the output tab. For these printers in the maintenance area, you can select the paper advanced calibration as well. So just by a mouse click. The printer then prints a test chart and analyzes it itself. So you don't have to do anything besides hitting the button and setting up the correct media. For Epson printers, it's slightly a different story. We provide a test form, which is available on our support homepage. This test form can be printed, and this allows you to select the paper feed adjustment correction value. Important to know, this visual test form only works for GMG media. For third-party media, just print a 1 meter die line and measure it if it is still 1 meter. If the paper feed adjustment is wrong, the die line will not be 1 meter. And this correction value can be entered directly in ColorProof as well. We will see in a second. So here we see the visual paper feed adjustment test form for Epson printers, for GMG media. Important to know, every printer has a different correction value. So if you have two Epson X900s, you have to do the paper feed adjustment for both of them and for each media type, and important to know, for every roll width. So even the roll width is important for the paper feed. So what does the paper feed adjustment do? It fine-tunes the paper advance between each single printhead pass. And this is why we see the banding when the paper feed adjustment is wrong, because the single passes overlay, and therefore you get these light-dark banding patches. Okay, so now we see an example of wrong paper feed adjustment. You see at the bottom of the test chart the paper feed adjustment set to 0%. This is the value which is set up in the software per default. So this is out of the box, and for some printers it may be completely fine having 0%. For some printers, as in our example here, it is not. Yeah, and imagine you have this banding on your test charts, on your media wedge, on your proofs, in your calibration. Not so nice. Here we now see an example, or here we see the correct paper feed adjustment for this printer. So you see again at the bottom, paper feed adjustment minus 0.25%. An important point is if you have this banding due to wrong paper feed adjustment, you have a smaller gamut. Not so nice. So how do you find the correct value you have to set? First of all, choose the patch with the lowest saturation. And then, if you have several, select this one with the least amount of banding on it. So first lowest saturation, then least amount of banding. And here we see where to add it into the media menu in ColorProof. So again, we're on the Output tab. We have the button Change Media, and here you select the correct media type and the roll size. And you see at the bottom, you can enter the percentage value for the paper feed adjustment. When you measure the 1 meter die line, you can select here as well to enter the measured value. And then you would just add, for instance, 998 millimeters, which you measured actually on your proof. And this then corrects the paper feed adjustment in the same way as it does with the percentage value. This value will be stored in ColorProof for this media type and this roll size on this particular printer. So when changing the media or the roll size back and forth, this setting will be remained. Okay, next one, connectivity. Mainly underestimated, but very, very important, protect your Ethernet cables. So historically, they are treated very poorly, and just because of their own weight, they can get a damage over the time, or they loosen up in the box. So the downside is, or the very mean thing is, when you have a cable which is just partially damaged, you may still be able to print a job, but when the measurement information should come back to the software, you get an error. And then you have to investigate a long time until you find out it's the broken cable. So here you see a picture from my colleagues from the USA. This is how they do it. They loosely just stick the Ethernet cable to the printer to prevent the cable like damaging itself, for instance. Another important thing is check if your printer firmware is up to date. So every printer vendor, mainly on their support page, offers the possibility to download the latest printer firmware, and you can check on your printer panel which printer firmware is actually installed. Another point is if you get a failed measurement on absence with the spectroproofer, just do the usual switch off and on trick. So you switch off the printer, you unplug the power cables, the USB cable, and the two small cables which connect directly to the measurement head. You plug the cables back in, switch the printer on, and then your measurement should be okay. Another point is to check that the measurement head fits straight into the mounter. So you should hear a small click when you put it in there. Okay, any questions so far? At this point, I see nobody has had a question so far. Of course, if there comes a question within the next week, just feel free to contact us. Our support is happy to help with any questions. And meanwhile, while you're tipping your questions into the chat, little advertisement. Maybe you're not too far away and want to visit us in Tübingen one time, see the beautiful landscape here. We offer several trainings about different topics, but if you want to hear more about how to get a better calibration, how to get the most out of ColorProof, for instance, we offer this workshop, ColorProof Best Practices. The next one in English language is scheduled for September 21st here in Tübingen. Just feel free to browse on our website to just check which trainings we offer. Besides you visiting us in Tübingen, it is possible as well that we visit you in your premises and train you, or even you and a group of your colleagues on a topic you want. So that's all. No problem. Okay. So there's still no question. As I said, if you have questions afterwards, just feel free to contact us. You will receive a follow-up email with the presentation, with the recording of the session today. And well then, thank you very much for your attention and have a nice day.